Yo, got a Vernasylph Ishizu Naturia deck profile for you. I played this deck in a locals and I just wanted to talk about how the deck performed, why I chose to play what I did, and what I might change in the future. If you're new to this deck, I'll try and explain card by card what the deck can do. Starting with 3 Naturia Mole Cricket. This card during the main phase can quick effect tribute to summon a Naturia from deck, even including itself, and if your opponent controls a monster with the highest attack or equal to it, you can summon 2 instead. So if you're going second, or if your opponent dropped a Bestial on you, you can Lone Fire for 2. It also has a second effect to reborn itself when either you summon an Naturia from your extra deck, or if your opponent summons anything from the extra deck. Card's fucking broken. 3 Camellia. This is a level 4 tuner that on summon foolishes a Naturia card, most likely going to be the trap, but sometimes it's Mole Cricket. This card can also let you mill 2 from your deck instead of paying the normal cost of a Naturia monster that would tribute. So if you had this and like Mole Cricket on the field, instead of tributing to summon from deck, you mill 2, which can be beneficial in its own right. And it has a third effect that if your opponent summons a monster, you can target and reborn a Naturia in your grave. Then 1 Stink Bug and 1 Sunflower. Stink Bug can protect Sunflower from being beaten over, and Sunflower is a non-once per turn monster negate and destroy that you can use usually at least 2 times thanks to Camellia. And Stink Bug can help you get access to your level 10 synchro of choice, Barone or Changying, and Sunflower is usually how you make Barkion. Then I play 3 Blessing and 3 Sacred Tree. Blessing is a non-once per turn quick play spell that can either summon a Naturia from hand or grave, fusion summon any fusion monster using monsters you control as material, or synchro summon any synchro monster using monsters you control as long as a material include a Naturia. And Sacred Tree is a non-once per turn add a Naturia card from deck to hand except itself if this card is sent to the grave. And its other effect is tribute either an earth insect or an earth plant to summon the opposite type from your deck. Handy for turning a Camellia into a Mole Cricket or a Stink Bug into a Sunflower. The ratios on these are weird. I think you can cut Blessing down to 2, but it's also one of the best cards in the deck. I've seen some people cut down the trap, but I think 3 is mandatory. It comes up so often that you need to have an extra in deck, and the shufflers just aren't enough to actually keep them in rotation. For the Vernasylphs, playing 3 Flourishing Hills, 3 Misting Seedlings, 1 Awakening Forests, 1 Thawing Mountains, and 1 Vera. These cards all have the same effect to discard themselves and another monster in your hand to do something, and then reborn an earth monster, and then they lock you into only activating earth monster effects for the rest of the turn. This one adds a Vernusylph, this one adds an earth fairy, this one sends an earth from deck to grave, and this one draws a card. Important things to note: Misting Seedlings can search for the Ishizu monsters, as they are earth fairies. Awakening Forests is in here to have both a searchable level 4 Vernusylph off of this, and in some specific situations, this card can help you get guaranteed access to your Naturias. I added in Thawing Mountains because I've had hands completely cut off from Naturia plays and no other Vernusylph, but this one would work. Vera is the boss monster of this archetype. It doesn't share the same effects as the rest. It has a very unique effect to negate and destroy at resolution of a monster's effect if you control 5 Earths. It can also quick effect reborn any Earth monster from your grave during your opponent's turn, and it has the effect to permanently snatch steal an opponent's monster and make it earth. The way I play this deck doesn't really revolve around this card, but maybe it should because I think this card is broken. You could cut it, but having access basically at all times to this card through the various ways of searching it or just randomly milling it and reborning it with a Vernusylph later in the game, I think it's just good. Then for the Ishizu cards, 1 Agido, 2 Keldo'd, 3 keldo'd, 3 Mudora, 1 Gravekeeper's Trap, and 1 Exchange of the Spirit. To quickly go over these, mills 5 from both players and can reborn a level 4. Mills 5 from both players and is sort of a hand trap, kind of like a compulse, bounce an opponent's monster. And these shuffle cards from either player's grave back into the deck. Gravekeeper's Trap, which you can place face up turn 1 with Mudora, can discard any card to search for an Earth Fairy, which Vernusylphs happen to be. Gravekeeper's Trap also becomes a really toxic floodgate if Exchange of the Spirit is in your grave, essentially Dweller and Necro Valley combined. And all of these cards gain bonus effects if you have this card in your grave. This one can set a trap from your grave. This one can mill 5 more from either your deck or your opponent's deck. And these both become shuffle 5s instead of shuffle 3s. And Gravekeeper's Trap also has a really stupid third effect that's mandatory, where you have to stop your opponent from drawing their card. You have to go, oh, yeah, I'm done with my turn. Go ahead, you can go. No, wait. Before you draw that card, I'm going to declare Dark Ruler no more. That is what I usually call. And if that's the card they draw, then they have to discard it to their grave. And in theory, you could chain to that declaration of a card name with whatever quick effects you have, like Dweller, before they can draw for their turn. So if that 6th card they would have drawn would have been a Droplet, you can maybe play around Droplet. Theoretically, I don't know. Other important things to note, Agito and Kelbeck will trigger off hand traps like Ash and Valor. keldo'd plus 2 Earth Fairies in hand will let you Dweller your opponent without normal summoning or getting Earth locked, making it safe for you to activate your cards that mill both players. I'd probably recommend to never set Exchange of the Spirit, just hold it in your hand, find a way to discard it, make IP Masquerada, Cerberus, Unicorn, something like that. Then I'm playing 3 Fenrir, 3 Lava Golem, and 3 Triple Tactics Talent. Fenrir is fucking godly in this deck. Summons for free, searches himself, gives you free fodder for the Vernusylphs. He's an earth monster. You can reborn with any of the Vernusylphs or Vera. You can even send him off the Awakening Forest just to have access later. The card as being level 7 gives you easy access to make cards like Baronne de Fleur, Cheng Ying, or Psychic End Punisher. And the card's effect is just good going first or second. I'm playing 3 Lava Golem as my going second card. I think it hits a wide variety of decks. Being able to out tier monsters in a way they don't come floating back, or in a way your opponent can't really respond to, is nice. Card also has a little bit of synergy with Fenrir, as it has a mandatory effect to pay 1000 life, which you can chain Fenrir to in order to banish stuff face down on their turn against their will. You do, however, lose your normal summons, so you're gonna have to open some Vernusylphs or Blessing to still play. There's also a little bit of added synergy with Mole Cricket, since you're giving them a big 3000 attack dude. It's enabling Mole Cricket to summon 2 instead of 1. I've seen people play cards like Evenly in place of this, but I wanted to play specifically a monster because Vernusylphs can only discard monster cards, meaning if I'm going first, or if this just isn't live, I can still get value out of it. And Talents, I'm playing over Prosperity because I think it will always be live, especially if you trigger the cards that mill. It's pretty much guaranteed. And that's it for the main deck. 43 cards, no light or dark monsters intentionally to turn off their Bestials, but theoretically they're going to use them anyway, especially if I mill them, and even if they do use them, that's playing into Talents, so I don't know, maybe I should be playing lights and darks, like Bestials. Anyway, for the extra deck, 1 Sprite Elf. I like this card. I don't really see many people playing it. I think it's really annoying to have to play around an elf pointing at a Naturia beast and ready to reborn your Sunflower engrave, and I think the deck is just good at link climbing for like turn 3. I don't know, I like it. I've liked summoning this card. 1 IP, Cerberus, and Unicorn. There are certain hands where IP is just good to have. The hands that make Dugaries, for example, can end up looking weird, just like you're passing on vanillas if you aren't playing IP. This card just adds additional disruption, and discarding Exchange of the Spirit or a Shuffler or a Miller off Cerberus and Unicorn is just really nice to have. Cerberus is also a easy to access Baguska out, and he's even Earth, so if you use the Vernusylph to make him, you're gaming. Access code because it's a good card. For the synchros, Naturia Beast, Barkion, Cheng Ying, and Psychic End Punisher. I don't have Baronne. If I did, I'd be playing it, but I'd also keep all of these cards. I think these cards are all good. Cheng Ying, despite being $100 cheaper than Baronne, is still pretty fucking nuts. You can trigger him by banishing for cost on the Shufflers, Medora, and keldo'd, so essentially your triple DD Crow also gets to have an Ice Dragon's Prison on top of it. Psychic End Punisher I like having because there's just some games that can get scrappy, and this card is an asshole to deal with if your life points are lower than your opponent's. It's also just pretty good removal. For the Xyz monsters, Dweller, Baguska, Dugaris, Utopia, Utopia Prime, and Zeus. These 4 are probably self-explanatory. These are not very good. I don't like it. It's just here, something I wanted to try. It's only here so you can make a 4-material Zeus. You can also play things like Utopia Ray if you don't have Utopia Prime and you want to play this package. I think you can play Dark Rebellion and Odd Eyes Rebellion Dragon Overlord. I'm probably going to start playing Asa and Corian Gandrax for at least the next version of the deck. For the side deck, 1 Bamboo Shoot. Don't play this card. Yeah, it's an insane floodgate that this deck can very easily summon. If you build a board around it, you can maybe steal a win. If you don't, your opponent can just summon a big guy and hit him. But a lot of people are playing Lava Golem in Sphere mode this format. If you build a board around him, you're risking playing into that. Just play Naturia Vein. Then I play Gamma. This is for things like Droll, Shifter. I like this card with Vernasylphs as well, since they are such good Ash targets. Plus, you can always just discard the dead Gammas or Drivers with their effects. I'm not playing a level 8 Synchro, so I'd usually just make Sprite Elf with Gamma if I was going first. Citing 1 Cowboy for time. I'm playing this instead of Spooky Dogwood because my deck is not 40 cards, and I thought this would be more reliable. Plus, if you play against a deck like Fluanderes that doesn't special, this would be more effective. 3 Twin and 3 Evenly. Playing Twin over Lightning Storm because I think there's more value in being able to discard a Shuffler or a Sacred Tree, but maybe the Raigeki effect of Lightning Storm is more valuable than that. Evenly here because it's a good card. And lastly, 3 Shadow Imprisoning Mirror. You could play something like Soul Drain, but I still want to be able to use my graveyard. This is pretty much one-sided, but would allow Tear Lament to shuffle back with one of the shufflers, a tier name, and then they can use the field spell to destroy this. Ideally though, in this deck, they're never going to activate the field spell. And that's the deck. I wanted to make it pretty basic. I thought if I made the deck as generic as possible, it would just be like better. There's so many options and so many ways to play this deck, different tech choices you can run, different staples that it's hard to settle on one. To give some examples, you can max out on the Ishizu cards, you can play more Vernusylphs, you can lean harder into your mills, play something like Rise to Full Height, or even play something like Lost Wind. I thought about playing Metal Foes Fusion. You can play Runic in here, you can build it for going hard second, main deck evenly, you can play Droplet, Goes In. You can turn the deck into Barrier Statue Control, which is searchable off Gallant Granite. This deck makes rank 4s really easily. You can play Bestials, which makes it way easier to make things like Changying and Barone. You can play Trishula, Black Rose. There's tons of synchro plays you can make. You can play Curious to mill Exchange of the Spirit. You can play Trap Tricks Illumerous. It's a rank 4 plant you can tribute off with Sacred Tree to summon Mole Cricket from deck, and it can even reborn Camellia. Even something like Soldier of Chaos can be good, and it's also an Earth. There's a lot, but for now, this is what I played. If you want to know how my locals experience playing this deck was, I'll just put a big wall of text in the description. This list could definitely use some changes. I hope my rambling on and on has been useful in some way. Thanks for watching.